Hello friends, welcome to the Jazz Ranch. Welcome back, hip cats and groovy chicks. You know, this is the only place where you can go and ride horses and they will sing bebop tunes to you while you're riding. And if you're riding with another person, the horses will sing in harmony. Now I wouldn't kid you, never kid a kidder, I always say. And people have asked me to explain how I create my introductions to songs and give you some theory on that. Introductions to songs, well, the best introductions are written by great arrangers. If you listen to great recordings by Frank Sinatra or George Shearing or Johnny Mandel, they write great arrangements to songs. And often the arrangements involve the verse. The verse can be an introduction to the song if it's the Great American Songbook. In other words, the verse sets up the song and its meaning and the meaning of the lyrics, and establishes what the song is going to do, melodically after that. And there's always usually a dominant seventh chord that approaches the chord that is the first chord of the song. I'm going to show you how that is done. Prior to that, I'm going to give you a couple of quotes. The first one is from my friend Frank Zappa. He said this: "Information is not knowledge. Knowledge is not wisdom. Wisdom is not truth. Truth is not beauty. Beauty is not love. And love is not music. Music is the best." I love that. And this one comes from Douglas Adams. He said, "Beethoven tells you what it's like to be Beethoven. And Mozart tells you what it's like to be human. But Bach tells you what it's like to be the universe." So he's saying Bach was the man. So here we go with a lesson on how to play introductions. Here we go. People have asked me about introductions. How do I create the introductions to my songs? Well, I'm going to show you some introductions from the simplest form to more complex, but some general ideas theoretically. But what it involves is setting up the first chord of the song. So if we're in the key of C and the first chord is going to be the tonic, then I want to set it up with its dominant. And I can create a progression that ends up on the dominant, or I can just start out with playing the dominant, something very simple and short. Like if it's Misty and the singer's going to sing it in C and they want that starting note, I can just give them the note, and that's the introduction. Or I can do an arpeggio like this. And it's easy for the singer now to hear the starting note. Right? Now, the next step of that would be maybe to play the 2-5. Instead of just the 1 chord, play the 2. Like that. See, so I played the D minor 7 or D minor 9. Ending up on the 5 chord, the 5-7, and I put a 13th in it, because it sounds nice with the melody note on top. And plus it also establishes the melody of the beginning of the song. So you can hear it right in the chord there, see, so that's great. And the third step of that, maybe a little more complicated, would be to play the 1-6-2-5 progression, like maybe. See, so there you have 4 chords, the 1 chord, the 1, the C major, or the C6-9 to an A7 flat 9, to a D minor 9-11 to the G13. So there you have 4 chords that establish the key. If we're going to be in E flat, then you have, see, so there you have it for simple introductions to a ballad. So now those same principles you could use to apply to an introduction to a swing tune. Like say I'm going to do Taking a Chance on Love. I can do the 1 to the 6. It so happens that those are the same changes as the beginning of the song, so it fits perfectly, except that I used 1 measure each. So I played a 4-bar introduction. So you can play a 2-bar introduction, you can play a 1-bar introduction, a 2-bar introduction, You could play a 3, but more common would be a 4-bar introduction. So this would be a 4-bar introduction, just the 1, 6, 2, 5. And, you know, you don't necessarily want to mimic the melody. You could, but you might want to just play something that doesn't involve the melody note of the melody of the song, so you hear something different, like maybe. See, so that there you have it. There I played something different melodically, not too complicated, just simple, rather than actually playing the melody. You know, now I've heard introductions where you do hear some of the melody at the beginning, like it might be different though. It might have a pedal tone like this. You know, so it gives you an idea of what the melody might be ahead of time, but with a different concept. It's not forward moving. Now that's the pedal tone. Now when the pedal tone means I'm putting the 5, the note of the 5 chord, the tonic note of the 5 chord as a pedal, and that the bass player would play that, and then I would play the 1, 6, 2, 5 against that, like this. I do that a lot. Actually, in the introductions that I play in a lot of my backing track songs, I use the pedal tone, but I use it against just the 1 chord, or a single chord of the 5. In other words, if I'm playing a key of C, I would play just the G7, maybe with a sus in it, or with a flat 9. I might do something like this. See, that's a nice way to start a tune, is because you're not having forward movement. It's sort of a block within itself, you know, like an introduction. It hovers there before having the forward motion of the song. So here's another way to do it. I'm cutting it in half now by doing 2 beats of each chord rather than 4 beats of each chord. Here goes C, A7, D minor, G7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and then repeating. Yeah, see, so that can be done. It could be done up an octave too, like this. Now you have the forward motion. You see here? This is just in suspension. So if the bass player is playing, he might just be playing like a pedal tone or something like this. Boom, 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 boom. See, there's so many varieties of different things you can do within that concept of the 1, 6, 2, 5. You know, I might do a melody like this. Or maybe see, I could play chords to it, or play bass line things to it, or pedal tone. So now we can elaborate on the 1, 6, 2, 5 and play some introduction type patterns or chord progressions that are more complex than just the 1, 6, 2, 5. Like I might do something starting on the sharp 4, like this, half diminished, and like this. You see, so sharp 4, half diminished, 4 minor. Well, that could be a 3, or it could be a 1 with the 3rd, the diminished there now, E flat diminished to a D minor 7, G 7 13, then the C, and then the G chord to set up, you know, just in time, you know. So you see, it's a progression, and you don't want to have forward motion. You don't want it to be, you know, want it to be simple. It's simpler than the tune that once you get into the tune. Another one might be, that was descending, you might do one ascending, like. See, that's about the progression. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, flat 3, 2, 5, 1, ending right up on 1 there, right on the first beat of the song. Another one might be to do chromatic progression, like. You see, that's up a half step diminished. D2 chord up half a step diminished, then the 3, then back down to the 5. Main thing is to get to that 5 chord before you're going to hit the 1, the first chord of the measure. Now I'm going to show you a few more introductions and then go to some that are all written out that I used on particular songs that are on my videos. Now, supposing the first chord is not the tonic. Now we have another issue. Say the first note of the song is, or the first chord in the song is going to be the 2 chord, like. I get a kick out of you. Let's put it in E flat. So it starts on the 2 chord, the F minor. Now in this case, I don't want to play a 1, 6, 2, 5. I mean, you could play. It's nothing wrong with that, but I want to do maybe something like this. I want to do a 1 chord to a 4 to a 3 to the 5 of the 2. See, so the 5 of the 2 is going to be a C7. I'm starting an F minor. You see, so I'm going to do 1, 4, 3, and then 6 dominant, which is the 5 of the 2. You see, so I have this. See, now I could do, that was 4 measures. If say I wanted to do an 8 measure introduction, I could still do the pedal tone thing, but in the last part of it, I would have that progression of 1, 4, 3, 6, or E flat to A flat 7 to G minor 7 to C7 altered to take me to the 2 chord. So I might do something like this. Here it is. See, that's really nice, I think. That works nicely. So those are important things to know as to how to approach the first chord of the song. Now, I'm going to give you some unorthodox ones, like, for instance, Autumn Leaves. Now, suppose you have a song like the Autumn Leaves, which is complicated in the way that it starts on the 2 chord of the relative major and ends up on the relative minor. So say I want to do this in D minor, which is F major. How do I play an introduction to that? Do I play an introduction to the G minor, or do I play an introduction to the relative minor of the key, or do I play an introduction to the relative major of the key, or what am I going to do? Well, a good thing to do in a case like that is maybe play something based on the first 8 bars of the song. Or I could just play some kind of vamp on the 1, like, you know, the 1. Like that. You see, just I played the 1 to the 5 to the 1 to the 5. That's a vamp introduction. I'm going to show you more about that on a Latin tune, but on this one I could just go like that. I play through the chord progression, but faster than it is normally played. In other words, shorter, within a 4 bar. Here's 4 bars, you know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4. That works fine. Now if I'm swinging it, see, so if it's a singer singing it now, you want to be sure that that note is heard at the end. So they cue that note. Now I'm going to show you the vamp introduction. Now that works really well when you're playing a Latin tune, like supposing it's Corcovado or Quiet Nights, and it first chord is going to be this A minor 6, or you can think of it as a D9 with an A in the bass. That's the song. So you can just play like a vamp, like this. It's the A minor to the D chord, like this. You can play it rhythmically differently. You could play it like that, or you could play it like this. Or you could just play something like this. Vamp is just a repeating pattern, right? So it's a repeating pattern. There's 2 chords. Similar thing with Song from My Father. You'd have this. A vamp. It's a vamp introduction, and it's just you playing on one chord, and there's a bass figure going on. You know, another popular Antonio Carlos Jobim tune is Wave. So you'd have a vamp like this. Now the funny thing about this tune is the first chord is really this. The setup chord is that. Or an A9 sus chord. So that doesn't really fit this vamp. So the last time you might want to go, you know, to lay down that specific chord that fits the opening of pickups of the song. Another one is Triste. So like that one is usually played with a B flat minor to E flat. That type of vamp. B flat minor to E flat. It's in the key of B flat. So you'd have this. And so on. You see? So you have that. Most Latin tunes really work well with vamps. So like, you know, if it's Girl from Ipanema, it would be just. You see, just that vamp is the way to get in there. Another one is this. You might do something like this. What is that? It's the 1 to the 6 to the 2, 5. Now how about a vamp on a swing tune? Well, now a lot of times, let's take the tune Fly Me to the Moon. And you probably heard the idea of like, well, play the last 8 bars as an introduction. So the last 8 bars now are based on the key of C, although the tune starts in A minor. So you have to have a quick 2-5 to get back to the A minor. Let's see. This is the last 8 bars. Then you have to have a quick to get that. to that A minor, so you have to have a quick 2/5 in there. But I heard the Basie, Count Basie version of this with Sinatra. He just vamped on the A minor like this to the E7. So I like that idea of the vamping. So that's a nice way to get into that tune, is just a simple vamp like that. Another tune that works great with a vamp is Bye Bye Blackbird. You can just, it's like, let's see. I'm going to do an F, so I might do something like this. So on, you see, so it's just vamping. It could be, you know, down here, the pedal tone, and so on. Now it's really nice to write out an introduction because you want it to be important, particularly in the case of a ballad. So in a few of these, I'm going to give you 4 examples of ballad songs, type songs that I wrote introductions for because I wanted the introduction to be important. I don't want to just be something simplistic that has no meaning. I want it to have a melodic flavor to it and be interesting. So the Nearness of You, I played that in the key of F, and it starts out like this. Right? So now, so I want to get to that, and what do I want? I want to harmonize that, so I want to harmonize it like this. So I want the 2 chord and the 5 chord there, and to the going to the 1. So now what I did was I started, and this is similar to a 1-6-2-5, but it's starting on the 3, going down a half step, and then the 2, and then the 5 to approach the 1. So on the 3, I would use an F chord. I used an F chord with an A in the bass like this, and I played a melody line that's very simple like this. That was the melody of the introduction. Then the melody of the tune comes in. So here's the melody. That's all it is. So the introduction has a melodic concept to it, like then this. Okay, so that's kind of pretty, I think. It's there, and then this builds to this. Now what is that chord? Well, that's a D flat 6 chord, but with the 5 in the bass. In other words, it's 5th in the bass, an A flat in the bass, which leads nicely to this G minor 11, then the C7 flat 9. And I need that in there to give it color, and then to that, you see. So it all makes sense. I can play it like this. There. Now for the Christmas song, it's such a beautiful song by Mel Torme, Chestnuts Roasting. In other words, I wanted something, so the key of E flat. So I wanted something that would be like bell-like, or, you know, would sound chimey like bells. But I wanted to create something unique, so I came up with this idea of this sound and this melody going like this. In other words, and then down to here. So what that is, it's an E flat chord going to a C flat chord, and then down a half step, repeating the same interval pattern. Then down a half step again. There. I'm on the F chord now, which is the 2 chord major. Then I would do a diminished chord approach now to the B flat sus chord, and then put the flat 9 in there. And that sets up my 5 chord for my 1 now and the melody of the song. So you see there again, you have this. Now you might say, well, how do you come up with that? Well, it's just knowledge. In other words, experience at writing as a composer to write an interesting introduction that has its own unique concept within itself. In other words, it's sort of like another song, but yet it sets up the main melody, the melody of the song, by coming to the 5 chord. So, you know, I started in the 1, then I went down an interesting interval, then down another half step, and down the same kind of pattern, and down a half step, and then that takes me nicely to the B flat. And I like that introduction so much that I use it at the end of the song to end it, like this. You see? Now, my introduction to As Time Goes By, I tried to write something that was really different and interesting because it's such a great song. And it's in the key of E flat, 3 flats. So the first chord starts on the 2 chord. The first chord is the 2 chord, or F minor 7. So you don't hear the 1 chord until the 3rd measure. So I had to write something that would lead me into the 2 chord. So I started on the 4 chord, which is A flat major, and then I wrote this melody like this. Now that's a diminished chord run. F diminished. Okay, so you have this. See, so now the way I harmonized it was with major 7ths, these dense harmonies with major 7ths and minor 7ths, like this. Locked hands technique. Then I put the C in there to set up the F minor, and then you have. Oh, see, so there you have it. There's another introduction that is very specific to the tune. This last example that I have written out for you, you can download it from my website. It's the song Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered by Rodgers and Hart, and it's in the key of C. The melody goes. And it's a very popular song, well-known song. I wanted to use the concept of creating an introduction that was unique, that had its own melodic shape to it, and had a unique chord progression, and sets up the main melody by ending up on the 5 of the chord, you know, that you're going to start on with the melody. So you're going to end up on a G7, or its tritone substitute, in this case, a D flat 9 sharp 11. But I created this contrapuntal idea between the 2 hands. I have this melody in the right hand that goes. So that's it. And then left hand does this. So then it's together, it sounds with the chord in there. So there you have it. So you have the 2 lines complementing each other, but not at the same time. It isn't like, isn't that? It's the, what are those chords? It's a C with a 9 added. That's like a G sharp, but it, you know, it starts out on the 3rd of the G sharp, diminished. Then ends up, that's approaching an A minor, or the 6th chord, and then you can call it an F sharp diminished or an E flat diminished, approaching the D. See, so having harmonic knowledge of how chords move is helpful with this, and also having a melodic sense of how to create a melody based on a chord progression. So I hope you will study this by downloading and looking at it, and think about, you know, writing your own introductions to songs that have their own interest and unique sound and unique chord progression. And I like this one in the same way I did the one for the Christmas song, in that I ended the arrangement with the introduction again. I thought it was a significant enough melody to play twice. So it really helps to have a composer's ear, and one way to develop that is to listen to a lot of great compositions that are arranged by great arrangers. Like, listen to some of the George Shearing arrangements, and, you know, the orchestral arrangements, Frank Sinatra's records. So wrapping up, all you really need to do is listen to a lot of recordings of great performers and their arrangements. In other words, Nelson Riddle's arrangements of Sinatra tunes, how he created introductions for the tunes, or Johnny Mandel. You know, any of the great arrangers, you know, the George Shearing recordings that have orchestral arrangements, listen to those introductions and you'll get a lot of ideas. So now we'll wrap up. Signing off from the Jazz Ranch, thanks so much for joining me. Please leave a comment or a thumbs up. You know, I always try to respond to all comments. Give me time. It may take a week or two for me to respond, but I always try to do that. If you read my comments, you will see that. And, you know, I always sign off with Hermie Dressel, and people ask me, well, who was Hermie Dressel? Well, he was a manager, a producer, a booking agent. He was a DJ. He was a jazz drummer. When I knew him, he was managing the Woody Herman band at one time. He had an office in New York. And when I was living there, I used to go visit him, and we would have great conversations. Whenever I would leave his office, he would always leave with these words, "Swing loose." You know, and that meant, well, you know, keep swinging and stay loose. Don't get uptight. So I always leave you with that comment. Swing loose until we meet next time. Bye-bye.